Hello and welcome to the channel. I am doing a review today on a show on Netflix. I am currently in the middle of watching Sabrina's Chilling Adventures, which I had a request for someone to do, and I'm trudging through that right now, which is painstakingly hard. So I'll post a review on that as soon as I finish, but it's not very promising as I've been stuck midway through episode 3, which is not a good sign. But I will still review the show as objectively as one can. For right now, as everyone could see from the clever title that I wrote, I am doing a review on the movie adaptation of Death Note, kind of continuing because I did the first part of the anime, which I'll do the second part as soon as I get done watching that, even though I've watched it 15 times. I've been going through and looking from a movie reviewing perspective, so that should be out shortly. However, today, seeing as to it is ridiculously cold and I had some free time on my hands, I wanted to post a little quick review of something that I had watched, which is just god awful. The Netflix has the rights to the anime to Death Note, so they came out with a live action version, an Americanized version of the classic. Now, to be clear, there have been several iterations of this very same property. Uh, Japan released two marvelous films that pretty faithfully adapted the source material. And before we get started, I would highly recommend you watching those had you not watched any movie adaptation. And one day I'll do a review on those. They're really hard to come by, and I had to special order my copies. As to Japanese titles are not very often released here in America. So let's talk about the abomination that is the Americanized version or the Netflix version of Death Note. Now, I've seen several reviews online about this, and there's one online reviewer in particular that I love to watch, and they said it best. An adaptation, especially from animation to live action, is meant to be different than the original source material. Certain things don't translate well in live action, and in animation, certain things don't translate well from live action to anime format, which is why you have to change up the source material in order to make things fit. I have no problem with artistic licensing. However, I do have a problem with something that adaptates something so far off of the source material that it's as if they don't really even care or respect the material that they are adapting from. And as always, I'm going to do my pros, my cons, what the overall opinion is, and whether or not I personally feel this is worth watching. So, first of all, this story is loosely adapted, and I say very loosely adapted from the original anime, in which a student finds a book where if he writes names, the people die within a minute of writing their name into this book. Or I have to go back. The deaths seem to vary depending on the situation, but the overall theme is if your name is written in this book, then you will die, and you can go as far as to controlling the person's actions before their time of death. And so this high school student called Light finds this book and determines that he's going to use it to get rid of the bad people in the world and essentially make a perfect world. After killing off a couple of criminals, he is then chased by this detective called L, who is supposed to be a brilliant detective, and then it becomes a psychological thriller of these two battling to find the other's identity and kill the other one. Uh, so let's start with the pros. There are none. As hard as I tried, I couldn't find anything that makes this even remotely worth watching. Maybe for the fact that William Dafoe is in it, and I'm a huge fan of William Dafoe, and he voices Ryuk, the God of Death, and does a fantastic job. But it's William Dafoe, and if you've ever seen his movies, he is quite a good actor. Other than that, the rest of the talent is non existent. So let's get into the bad. Pretty much everything about this movie is terrible. The acting is atrocious. It's quite possibly one of the worst films I think I've seen Netflix make. Um, the characters are like straight out of a CW drama. I mean, it's shot in high school. There's a lot of plot holes, things that don't make sense. Um, I mean, a few spoilers, but honestly, they're not really spoilers because hopefully I prevent someone from watching this waste of 2 hours. Um, the the premise of the Death Note is that whoever writes in this book dies. Now, you would think that the main character would want to keep this a secret. Now, in the show, he cleverly goes through an elaborate plan to hide this from plain sight, but or in the anime, but in the movie, they treat the main character pretty much like a stupid high school kid, which, if you watch the anime, he's quite intelligent for someone his age. However, here he's just a standard high school student, and it's very teen drama, is the best way to describe it. He pretty much flaunts this book around and doesn't even make an attempt to hide it, which the whole point of the show is the chase between him and L. L's character comes off as someone who is quite honestly a raving lunatic looking for this other person, and there's no thought into the development of any of these characters. There's no arcs. Uh, the scene at the end in particular makes no sense and is not even close to how the original source material ends. Um, I mean, quite honestly, it's just atrocious. Um, I don't even really know what to say. Uh, it's basically as if someone looked at the material and took the very basics of what the story was supposed to be about and completely created something different that has nothing to do with the original material, which is a shame because there is some scenes that are quite, well, fun to look at, and different things that they do that could have worked if they would have stick closely to the story they were adapting. Um, my overall opinion is if you want to see a good version of this told, I would more recommend watching the anime or the Japanese movies as opposed to watching Netflix remake of this because it is just god awful and terrible. Um, if you've never seen Death Note, then this movie will make no sense to you because they don't explain anything very well, and it's really over before it begins. And if you've seen Death Note, you'll be upset because it does not follow any of the story whatsoever. So the fact that this is getting a sequel astonishes me, and I think people just watched this just to see how bad this movie actually was, and it is quite bad. But if you have nothing better to do and you've seen every possible thing that there is to see on Netflix, then I guess wasting an hour of your life will probably be uh, what you'd be doing because this is just a terrible movie, just god awful, horrible. Um, and honestly, I wish I had a Death Note to write the creators of this show so that they would never make anything again. It's really that bad. But anyways, I know as far as it goes, I didn't get much into the structure of the story and things like that, like I normally do. But that's honestly because there is no structure. Um, it doesn't make sense, and the story is all over the place. And by the time you get done with it, if you are a casual viewer and didn't see every iteration of the story like I did, you would have no clue what is going on. And that's a shame because they had a chance to really take this and make it something amazing. But anyways, there's plenty of other things to watch on Netflix, and I would suggest skipping this one and watching something that would be less of a waste of your time. Anyways, I'll probably be doing a review later on something that is good. I haven't decided what yet, but I will let you guys know. Anyways, thank you for subscribing to my channel. My viewership went up, so thank you to everyone who has joined. And please hit a like or make a comment below if you've seen something that I reviewed and what your opinion is on that subject, because I would love to chat with you and let you know why I feel the way I do about certain movies and our shows. I also want to do a classic movie review. I'm searching for Die Hard, and I think that's going to be one of my first classic movies that I do. It's one of my favorites, but it is really hard to find, and I have 3 streaming services, so hopefully I can find that today and really break down what makes that movie so great, because it is a great movie. Anyways, thank you very much. And to all of you who live in Wisconsin, stay warm because it is ridiculously cold outside. And I will see you at the movies.